They had me first on this program. They might be conjuring up lightning to strike this building when they know I'm only supposed to talk 10 minutes. Well, I do want to thank Denny and Ryan, David Fox, who just recently held those positions. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that as a student teacher, I had Gerald Andrews as a student teacher at Bolivar High School. I want to take you through just a quick tour of why I am so lucky to be here and so honored to receive an award in Gary's name. I grew up in Crowsville High School, had two loving parents, a brother and a sister who helped nurture my addiction to anything that had to do with the ball. I had a high school coach that I still would regard, even though he just passed away recently. I had the great honor to speak at his funeral, as the best fundamental teacher of the game I think I've ever been associated with. And a beautiful wife who kept score for all his games and still regards me and introduced me as her adopted son. I went to Bolivar to Southwest Baptist and again was blessed. Was a very average player at that level, and a coach had the vision to say he's a gym rat's going to want to coach. And I was able to spend the last 2 years I was there as the assistant coach in a program just starting as a 4-year institution. I went to Sedalia Smith Cotton, where again God blessed me to have Jim Dinsdale as my first ever head coach to work under, Earl Finley as a principal, and Bob Edmondson as an athletic director. There could not be 3 people in the world better to mentor young coaches than what I was blessed with. And not only that, you know, I found out real quick, and I know Mike Keltner, when he saw Kim and Doug in the hallway, looked at me and smiled and said, "Sure is nice to have good players, isn't it?" And so I think all these Hall of Fame inductees who I congratulate, you're richly deserving, would all agree that we receive awards for the thousands of lives that we've been associated with that make us good coaches. Little did I know that in the first few years that I coached that I would have 2 players that would meet the test of time and could play in any of the 6 decades that I've coached in. I'm only 66. I don't know quite how I did that, but I did coach my first ever team when I was 12 years old. Kim Anderson and Doug Maple are here, and Doug could play point guard in the game that we have today, and obviously Kim's the best player I've ever coached. And those of you that have followed me know that I have been blessed more than I deserve with great players. I left Sedalia and went to Poplar Bluff, where again I had a mentor and a principal that was a very unique individual. And I got to sit in the classroom of the great Gene Best, who shared our gym at the time. So to fail, I would have had to have been really miserable to have all of those people to watch and learn from and learn after. But there was a guy in Poplar Bluff who I hope someday is inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame by the name of Sam Gambaluki. Sam was a businessman that loved sports, was probably a pioneer in AAU track events years and years and years ago. But he started a Poplar Bluff Sports Hall of Fame. As some of you know, they've been, there again, talent chased me everywhere I went. Hansborough kid wasn't too bad. He only cost me 2 state championships. I'm mad at him too, Mark, wherever you are. Nevertheless, Sam told me one time, he said, you know, when he finally was resigned to the fact that I was leaving Poplar Bluff to go to Lafayette, he said, you know, all I hear is you talk about how great that Coaches Association is. He said, we're long overdue and you need to get off your butt. We need to have a Missouri Basketball Hall of Fame. He said, you're moving to the big city. You need to meet somebody influential and see if you can't get that done. Well, I thought immediately, I said, I already know somebody that's influential. And we are all here today receiving these wonderful honors because that individual I knew was Gary Filbert. And I called him, I said, Gary, we're way behind. Why don't we have a Hall of Fame? You know, think of all the wonderful people that have coached and played in our great state. And man, that was like turning the light bulb on for Gary. And Gary said we're going to do that. We started out, it was going to be in Columbia College, and to make a long story short, along came John Q. Hammonds, who we all need to hero worship, and he told me when he announced that he was going to do it, he said, Coach, I will guarantee you this, it may not be the biggest Hall of Fame in the United States, but it will be the best. And through Gerald's guidance and the work of many people on that board and Gary, we are rapidly getting there. I've had great players, and I had great family support when I was young, but the most important thing that happened to me in Sedalia was one day we were at a basketball game, and I looked over at the doorway to the gym that was closed, and one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen in my life was waving. So I punched Maple and I said, hey, Doug, some good-looking girl over there waving at you, because I knew she wasn't waving at me. He said, that's no good-looking girl, that's my sister. I'd coached him a year, didn't even know he had a sister, to tell you how warped I am. But anyway, 5 years later, I was a little slow. 5 years later, I asked her to marry me, and she did. And that was really good what you did about the spouses, because certainly she has been the rock and driving support that we all need to do what I've done in coaching. And then she gave me 3 beautiful gifts for she and I both and our children. My son couldn't be here today. He is trying to entertain the poor Chicago Cub fans that are in mourning every day in Chicago as he's a singer-songwriter. So if you're into iTunes, you might want to go to Scott Porter, 800 miles. I would greatly appreciate you paying the 99 cents for each of those songs, you know, to help the boy pay. But along with that, I'm proud to tell you that has been downloaded in 17 countries, so it must not be too bad. Then I have 2 beautiful daughters, and I will tell you very proudly that they are both in their own right better coaches than I ever was. They have wised up quicker than I did, and they're going to lead normal lives now. I'm not coached any longer, but trust me, we are lucky to have the quality of teachers that they are, and my wife was in our schools today. Now, I want to tell you about Gary in case some of you don't know. And I know that there's a wall full of people over here in Kim that will support this. I can't tell you how many occasions that I was blessed to be on the same docket as Norm Stewart to speak, and how many times he said, for all the great things that he did at Mizzou, that maybe the best thing he ever did was to bring Gary Filbert back to the university. And he also tells the story that one day he went to work and Gary was working for him, and he went home that night and he was working for Gary, as Gary moved from assistant coach to assistant AD. And then, you know, like everything that Gary ever did, somebody said something about the state games, and he made that the biggest and the best. No pressure, Kenny, for you and David to make it, keep it bigger, and I know you will. But you see, Gary Filbert, in my opinion, is the godfather of all Missouri coaches, even those that don't know him and maybe will never know him. But I'm hopeful that all of you will, along with me and the guys here that I know, will forever tell the story about Missouri's true Mr. Basketball. To think that some young, energetic, foolish coach would say to Gary, we should have a Hall of Fame, and then think it was going to turn out like this. You know, I'm thrilled to death to have been a part of it, but I think you all know, and we all know, that Gary Filbert was not going to rest until this became a reality. He had the good fortune to know so many people. Bob Fanatta being one of them, who just happened to be best friends with Mr. Hammonds in college. And Gary talked to Bob about the wonderful things that the Hilliard Company was going to do for us in the small gym that Columbia College was gracious enough to give us. And I thought that was going to be great. You know, I played in some of those kind of gyms, you know, little bitty tiny ones that had running tracks above, and if you needed to throw it long at the end of the game, they put somebody on the ball, you couldn't do it. I learned a great play from that experience in Lilburn High School. Those of you old enough know about that. But Gary went to Bob and talked to him a little bit about his ideas. He said, you need to meet Mr. Hammonds. I'll never forget this. Final Four was in Indianapolis, and Gary said, this is going to be our biggest Final Four. Mr. Hammonds has agreed to come, and I'm going to drive him over to the Indiana High School Hall of Fame. Now, he took myself and several other people the day before. And you know, your eyes are just busting out of your head when you look at their exhibits and all the wonderful things they've done. Basketball is a pretty big thing in Indiana. Basketball is a really big thing to Gary Filbert. So the next day he took Mr. Hammonds over there. And the bottom line is, when they walked in, as soon as they got there, they talked about all kinds of things on the way, but as soon as they got there, this great mind said, I want to see your blueprints. How much does it cost to heat? How much does it cost to air condition? When he left, he said, I'm going to do something. Now, we were thinking he was going to refurbish this other building. He said, I'll announce this soon. And soon was only several months later. He did tour the state, decided to build it here, and I'm quite certain there couldn't be a better place ever. But we are all in a great deal of debt to Gary Filbert. God rest his soul. Because it is because of him that we all stand here, and it is because of him that I'm humbled beyond belief to receive this award. Thank you very much.